Well, hello and welcome to GMIHub Online Studio Talk. We're so glad you're with us. Tonight, we're going to be talking about compressors and gates. And before we introduce who our panelist is going to be for tonight, I'm going to let you know that if you are joining us for the first time, then feel free to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know all about what's going on here on GMI Hub Online. What we're here to do is we provide conversations about everything related to the music industry, whether it's technical, business, or even creative. So feel free to go and check out all our other YouTube sessions that are on here as well. If you would like to know more about GMI Hub, go to gmihub.ca and you will learn so much about what we are all about, some of the projects that we're working on. Here's an opportunity for you to join our community just so that we can connect and be with you. And if you have things going on that are with your music or with any events that you're part of, we'd love to be able to share that with the rest of the community as well. If you are a social media expert, feel free to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. We're just at GMI Hub. We're also on Twitter, which is at Industry Gospel. So we would love to have you be a part of our community because we are here for you. Before we introduce our panelists, I'd like to introduce you to the main host for tonight, Daryl Dewick. Daryl?
Hello, how's it going tonight? It's good to
Going
be.
really well.
I'm glad I'm here. It's been quite the fun time with it being festival season and working, and it's been interesting because I've actually started having to use gates and compressors a lot more than I normally am. As usually I'm a video guy, and now I'm being called to do a lot more audio. So I'm learning and playing, and now I can actually talk to guys and find out what I've done wrong and what I'm doing right, and to move it forward. So, yes, and if you're watching us, please hit the like and smash the subscribe button and let us know what's going on and put some information or talk to us in the chat as well. We have somebody there keeping their eyes on what's going on with that. So I will throw it back to you, Cheryl.
Tonight, joining us is a returning panelist. We've seen him on a few of our programs. He's an audio engineer, John Clarke. He has worked with a number of different events. But one interesting tidbit he shared tonight is he was also a professor at Canada Christian College, and he was nicknamed Professor Compressor. So without further ado, let's introduce Professor Compressor John Clarke. You got to unmute.
Hi,
Good. So good to have you with us, John.
I'm glad to be here.
So tonight, John, we are going to be picking your brain about compressors and gates. Since you are Professor Compressor,
Yeah.
what can you tell us about compressors and gates? Actually, what, for someone like me who really doesn't know the audio scene, what is compressor? What is gate? Are they the same thing or are they different?
Here's the funny thing. They're very different, but they use almost the same controls, but they do incredibly different things. And I almost feel we need to split it up, first talk about one and then talk about the other. Gates, not quite as important as compressors to me, but they are very interesting in the way they're used. So, but like I said, they've got the same controls, but they do very different things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So a compressor, like if you read the textbook, it would say a compressor controls the dynamic range of a signal. Now, what is and a signal is a voice, an instrument, or whatever, an audio signal. So, what is dynamic range? You might ask.
What is dynamic range,
range?
John?
Dynamic range is the range of volume. Like a real dynamic singer is someone who gets quiet and louder and quieter and louder. But even like you can hear me talking, right? You hear that some words I say, some words that you guys say, are a little louder than the other words in the same sentence. And so you go, "Hi, how are you?" And that's just a natural way, like you emphasize or something. What you sometimes find is when you're putting a voice in the mix, and I'm going to talk mostly about voice. You'll find that like some lines, some words are a little buried and some are a little too strong. And that's a dynamic range. And what a compressor does is it compresses that so that it all sits in the same range. It makes the louds a little less loud so that it's a more of an even sound. It's one of those things where when you hear it in use, if like when I was in the studio, I would play an audio track and I turned the compressor on and then I turned it off and on again. And it would be like you couldn't put your finger on it, but it sounds a bit better with the compressor on because it's more even. And yeah, so that's what it basically does.
So compressors control, in some ways, control the volume. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly. And
So
yeah.
I'm just visualizing. I'm just visualizing this. So well, I've heard that there are systems that automatically make everything sound kind of monotone-ish. But is that the same idea, or that compressor's not involved with that?
Monotone, I don't think the compressor is involved with that. And
Okay.
one problem that we sometimes have talking with someone who's not an expert is they'll try to communicate something to you, and you don't really like it's without the technical terms. Half the time, I'm trying to translate, so I'm not really sure what you mean by monotone. Because it sounds like you're saying I should talk like this, like a really bad robot, but that to me is monotone. But no, this controls the volume levels. And I'm going to go to the my trusty old whiteboard because it wouldn't be.
Absolutely.
Right, I think I need to tilt the camera or move it or something so we can see it. All right.
It was actually good before, but okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So say you say a sentence, and I'm going to try to show the volume. Hello. And then the volume drops, and then you say, how are you? Like that. So this would show the
Okay.
volume of that sentence, okay?
Yep.
What you'll see is there's too many peaks. The peaks, especially this one, is too high compared to this, right? And you would
Yes.
want to bring it down so that they're all more even. So the first setting you would have is called the threshold. And what the
Okay.
threshold would do is it would tell you where the thing is going to kick in. If your threshold is too high, it adjusts nothing. It affects nothing. If it's too low, it affects everything. And it does. And here's a rule of thumb with compressors. Too little is better than too much. So you just want to take a bit off the top. So if we set our threshold to about here, then everything above this will be affected. So this is where our threshold is set. This is where it kicks in. So it's not adjusting everything, but it's adjusting everything above a certain level.
Okay.
The next setting that we would have to consider or worry about or adjust for is what we call a ratio.
Okay.
And the ratio is the amount of adjustment to the volume you're doing. A common ratio is 3 to 1. That means every time it goes up 3, it only allows the volume to go up 1. So this peak here, let's see, you would actually have it automatically bring it up to there and make a little thing. So instead of hearing this, it's more in line with the other. It's brought down. You'd see that as well here and here as well. So you would see the threshold would bring this volume down and compress it at a 3 to 1 ratio. Every time it goes up 3, it only allows it to go up 1. So 3 to 1
Okay.
is it's my basic go-to. It's the one I like. I sometimes I'll bring it up a little more. Sometimes, yeah, I'll make these adjustments. Sometimes I'll compress everything. Sometimes I'll compress only a little off the top, depending on what it is. Voices, I always compress. Bass guitars, they love compression. Acoustic guitars, not so much. I rarely compress those. Things like the electric keyboards and pianos, they already have compressors built in. Usually don't have to worry about that much. Things like horns and violins and so on, you want a little bit off the top as well, just to control it. So this is basically 3 to 1. The thresholds where it kicks in. The 3 to 1 is how much compression above a certain level.
Okay.
All right.
So for
And
vocals, you're saying that if it's a very non-dynamic singer, you would keep it at a 3 or a 4 to 1, and then with a smaller threshold, or would you do a larger threshold with a larger ratio?
well,
And it
here's
all
the thing.
depends.
It all depends. I mean, this is really something you have to play around with. Now, if you're in the studio, it's great. Like I say, get a compressor, get your favorite vocal track, and just play with the settings and see which is sounding better to you. And you'll hear if you overcompress, it really starts to sound bad. It sounds squished, like the tone gets a little funny. But if yeah, so not enough is better than too much. The ratio really depends. Like live, I might ratio it up a bit, just because of the nature of the singer, because of the nature of the venue. If you have a guy who's one of those whisper to a scream type singers, you'll definitely want to do it, or an instrument that where the guy thinks plays it very loud and very quiet. And yeah, these are you. I'll give you an example. There is a singer that I often work with. He'll sing something like, the song "Midnight Cry."
Mm-hmm.
It starts. It starts very
Yeah.
low, but then he
I
says,
hear the
"I can hear the
sound.
trumpets," and he's screaming that.
Yes.
Yeah, you could
Yes.
probably hear a killer version of that show. Um,
Yes.
with him, what I found was because of that, starts at singing very quietly. Then he's like full open voice for the choruses. You really have to compress him. And what that kind of frees me up is you can also, I found that when he got loud, he also got a little bit more shrill. So instead of worrying about his volume, I would just have my finger on the high tone, the high EQ, and just
Mm-hmm.
soften him up when he got loud, and then made him brighter when he got quiet again. But that's thanks to the compressor. If you're doing sound in a church, there's a lot of preachers like that who will start quietly, and by the end of the sermon, they're screaming their lungs out. But
Mm-hmm.
it'll sound. Here's the thing: it sounds louder, but it really isn't louder. It sounds louder because of the tone of the voice, because of what the guy's doing. But you're not hurting your ears. It's like he's not like in the beginning. If it's a singer, he's not at the beginning. Like if this is the volume of the music, he's not under it to start off with, and then way over it
Mm-hmm.
when he gets full open voice in the chorus.
So what I'm hearing here, you just mentioned one thing that got my attention. So with compression, one of the benefits of compression is actually saving your hearing, right? Because if it gets too loud, it saves the eardrums from having to deal with
Oh,
a sudden
it
loud burst of noise. Is that what I'm
yeah,
understood?
it absolutely saves the audience's ears. Yeah, it
Yes.
does. It does help with that. And there is a type of compressor called a limiter.
Talk to us. What's a limiter?
It's basically a compressor, but instead of having a 3-to-1 ratio, it would have an infinite. Whoops, I should have used my black. It should have an infinity to 1 ratio. And what that means
Okay.
is it's like a brick wall. It doesn't allow the volume to go above that. So you set your threshold here. It's like
Mhm.
a blank wall. It doesn't go higher than that. The problem is it doesn't sound very good. You want a softer compressor or a softer setting on that. Then it's basically there to protect the system. Now, I do a lot of weddings and shows like that where we
Mhm.
work with DJs. And DJs, they just get louder and louder and louder. They're turning their volume up and up and up as the show goes on. And what's happening is a friend of mine calls it the limiter of shame because we, I mean, the sound guy's first job, protect the system. Second
Mhm.
job, make it sound good for the audience. Third job is make it sound good for the artist. Usually, if you make it sound good for the artist, he or she gives a better performance. But those are um, kind of the priorities. First, safety. Second, protect the system. Third, make it sound good for everyone. Now, a limiter will like the song that they're playing for dance music. They have this drum beat that just jumps out, and that's why you dance.
Mhm.
You hear the drum beat, no matter what else is going. When you limit it, when you overcompress it, the drum beat is not jumping out as much, so it sounds actually duller and duller and duller as the guy's pushing up his volume because the drums are no longer jumping out because they're compressed. The dynamic range, there is a natural dynamic range. You want the song to breathe, you want the drums to jump out, but um, too much on the track, it's not that good.
Can too much compression make something sound muffled?
Muffled, maybe. I would say that I've heard acoustic guitars overcompressed start to sound very tinny.
Oh,
Very,
okay.
yeah. It's. I think what it is. I don't know why it would sound more tinny, except to think maybe uh, the acoustic guitar has warmer frequencies and brighter frequencies. But the brighter frequencies are the strongest. But if you overcompress it, you're pushing down the warmer frequencies, and so that makes it tinny. I don't know. Someone else could tell you that, but it does. It for me. I describe the sound as being squeezed. You can feel it being squeezed, not breathing if it's overly compressed.
So here's a funny thought, kind of a funny thought. There have been times when I first started singing where, like, like you kind of described, I would start singing very, very quietly. And then when I got to a certain part of the song, I would belt it because that's what the song demanded.
Yeah,
And I commonly heard that I made the sound system go redline. Would
yeah,
the sound engineers at that point be using a compressor to kind of control and protect the
yeah.
system so that it wouldn't redline as high?
Yes, they would put a compressor, or they should put a compressor on your voice and a limiter on the system altogether. Like
Oh.
you don't want to ever hit the limiter on the system, but because like it would make the whole thing sound bad. It just sounds bad, but it protects the system. But you want your voice sitting in a certain dynamic range, and that's what the compressor will do. Now, a lot of vocalists actually try to compress themselves just by using the microphone. We've all seen singers; they're singing like this, and then when they get loud, they pull the microphone back a little, and
Hmm.
that's them trying to compress. trying to
Hmm.
make the louds not as loud. A really good one will get really good at that. But the fact is with modern technology, I almost feel like I need to tell them don't do that anymore because my compressor will take care of it. So you can, because when you pull the microphone back, if you remember our mic technique talk, what was it, 2 months ago? You also
Hmm.
get a little tinnier. You lose some of that low end.
Right,
So, but if you can
right.
keep it close and let the compressor bring it down. Now, of course, if you're a singer, ask your sound guy if he's compressing before you decide whether to do that.
But also, when they start pulling the microphone away, again, this is the talk on mic technique. You're also picking up more of the instruments around you, and not just cutting the volume back in. So you're actually not making. It's not a compression. You're actually picking up more instrumentation and other stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just too
yeah,
loud for you
absolutely.
on stage.
Yeah, yeah. It's absolutely.
Wow. Okay, well, we're learning quite a bit, but you know what? I think to kind of soak this all in, we need to stop for a commercial break. But when you come back, we need to understand gates and ducking. I heard about ducking, and I don't think it means
Okay.
Canadian ducks. Okay. Right
Yeah.
after
Well.
this message.
Yeah.
Are you writing a Christmas song? Do you want it on our Christmas CD? This year, send us your song for your chance on the CD. Submission deadline July 31st, 2022. Family Christmas Volume 3. Christmas 2022.
Wow, that date is coming soon, just like 2.5 or 3 weeks left to send your music in. So if you know any artists that, or you're working with any artists that are working on Christmas song, chop chop, you got to get that music in there. Looking forward to it. Okay, back to our conversation with John. John, let's talk about gates.
Gates. All right. Let me tell you a story. I
I
used
like
to work.
stories.
I I used to work on a TV show. It was produced by. It was maybe my first professional gig. It was produced by the people who did 100 Hunley Street. The show was called Nightlight, and it was on like between 3 and 5 in the morning, and it was a live phone-in show. I see Daryl's responding.
Yes, I've worked on that show too.
Okay, okay, yeah. When I worked on it was actually at 100 Huntley Street,
Oh,
and
wow.
that is years ago. But we would. It was a live phone-in show. This was the years before cell phones or anything like that. And what you would find is all these cheap phones were noisy. You get like in the background. So
Mhm.
here's what I would do. All right, I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show you how it does something very different, but it has almost the same control. So you would hear like the background noise, and then someone would speak, and the volume would go up. Hi, how are you? Like that. And
Mhm.
the trick is you want the signal to go through, but you want to stop the noise. Now, what in your front yard, what does a gate do? A gate lets some people through and stops, hopefully, the bad people from coming through. It lets you guests through, but stops burglars.
Okay.
In this way, a noise gate will stop the noise from going through, but let the spoken word go through. So once again, you would set the threshold. You would set it so that it's just above the noise. So say we do here. So when
Mhm.
the volume is below the threshold, the gate is shut. Nothing can go through. But then when over here the guy starts talking, the gate opens up and you hear him talking. You also hear the noise in the background, but hopefully by then it's buried underneath what the guy is saying, the sound of his voice. So in a way, Daryl mentioned a singer with like loud bands in the background and so on. You might use a gate to kind of filter out the sound of the band when she isn't singing, and then when she sings, the gate opens up and you can hear her voice. So once again, you have the threshold that tells you when it kicks in. And a lot of guys use it on drums. Say you have a kick drum. You're hearing a lot of the drum kit through the kick drum microphone, but you really only want to hear that kick drum, and it should be the loudest. So you would set your gates so that only the kick drum would go through. The gate would open, let the kick drum through, and then shut when the kick drum isn't. It's just like, I mean, the kick drum is a doom, like that. So it's just open, shut, very quick. But that's what you would use it for, or on your drum kit. Now, I underuse it when I'm mixing music. I know guys who will throw the gate on everything, but one issue that I have with the gate is it will cut off what I call the leading edge. It'll take a millisecond or a few milliseconds to open up, and you would hear like, and you've probably seen this on TV or on some things where it's just the leading edge of the sound is just slightly cut off. And that's why I don't really like using it on a few things, on the things like drums or whatever.
It cuts off the articulation, the pronunciation of a consonant or the striking of the note. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little, I don't want to call it muffled, but maybe a little more on the muted side, because you can control the speed that comes in on, and the release of that as well.
Yeah. So I think like I can talk about how fast it comes in and how fast it goes out. That is the release and the, what's the other?
Attack
and release. That's it. Attack and release. So I haven't really touched on them because that gets pretty deep into the weeds. But the attack is how fast the compressor or the gate turns on, and the release is how slow it lets it go. So I tend with some things keep them a little tighter, but both the compressor and the gate, you kind of want them to attack a little faster so that you're not missing out on that leading edge of the first note or the first consonant or whatever. So that's what I would use a gate for. And like I said, I use them sparingly.
You mentioned, okay, so when we were talking about compressors, you talked about a ratio.
Yeah.
When you talk about gates, are ratios involved with gates as well, or no?
No.
Not involved.
The gates are either all on or all off. There's no real ratio there. The elements that are the same are the threshold, where it kicks in, the attack, and the release. And there's another setting called a knee.
What's a knee?
A knee? Well, here.
I just asked these questions so you can draw pictures, John.
Yeah. I'm such a great artist. All right. So this is a knee, right? Okay. Like this is someone's
if
leg,
you say so.
Foot. So this is Mr. Stick's knee. What if you use a softer knee? What you're doing is, instead of having it like this, it would come in more of a curved angle.
Okay.
So, like if the compressor, do you remember that first note we showed on the compressor where it came in like this? We set our threshold here, and we had it set for 3 to 1, like that. What a knee would do is would just soften that so it wouldn't come in as harsh. as noticeable if you soften the knee
Right.
a little. So it comes in a little slower, a little more gradually with a softer knee, which I kind of prefer. So I usually
Mhm.
use a soft knee with things with compressors. Um, yeah, so that's what the knee does, and that's how you can soften the. I don't want to call it the attack because the attack is a setting, but the way it comes in. And once again,
Okay.
there is a lot. I like everyone who wants to learn about these things. I mean, there's a lot of software out there. Everyone should have uh, like a audio engineering software at home where you can play with things and just play with the compressor, see what works, what doesn't. Um,
Mhm.
there's even some free programs that are good that have the compressor as well.
Awesome. What's meant by ducking? What is ducking?
Okay, now ducking. What this is? All right, I produce a podcast and a radio show called Moments of Music and Inspiration with Jonathan Urey. And what happens there is he is a talented musician, and he'll read a devotional. So what'll happen is in the program, it'll start with a composition of his. So you'd hear the music play, and then he would start to read the devotional. The problem is if I kept the music at the same level, he would be drowned out. So what I do is with the music, I bring the music down so that his spoken word is higher. And then when he finishes speaking, I bring the volume back up. So this is what we call ducking. You would bring it down for him to speak and then back up when he's done talking. Now you've probably seen podcasts or whatever. They'll have a loud intro song, and then the intro song will keep playing as the host comes in and says, "Welcome to um, this show." Well, what will happen is you'll notice that the volume will actually drop as he starts speaking. Here's a song that uses that. U2 has a song called Pride in the Name of Love. And it comes in with that loud guitar, but then the guitar, it's playing the same part, but it suddenly gets quieter as the singing starts to make room for the singing. Now, I don't think that, in my opinion, it's a great song, but it it should have been like better mixed. It was just too drastic, that drop in volume of that guitar. But that's a perfect example of ducking, bringing down the volume of one thing so something else will jump out. And you'll kind of notice that where there'll be instruments playing, but then the singer starts, and so you'll bring them down. You'll still hear them, but they won't be as loud. Some things you'll keep the same level, like the bass, the drums, but things like if it has a horn intro, the horns will drop out or will get quieter when the singing starts. And so that's called ducking, which is like that. It's just ducking down in instruments or the music, usually for spoken word. A lot of places, like if you go to Walmart or something, they'll have a sound system where if someone makes an announcement, you'll hear the background music get very quiet or even sometimes shut right off. So they'll, attention Walmart shoppers, we have a sale on toilet paper. And the volume is dropped down, and then he finishes, and in theory, the music will come back up after a few seconds. And so that's ducking.
And here I thought they were just turning the music off because.
Yeah, it's doing it. Basically, that's what their machine is doing.
It's a machine version
Wow.
of the mix engineer just pulling it down.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So what
Yeah,
are the
so
rules of thumb related to all of this? Like, so rules of thumb related to
all right,
gating and
gating used sparingly and only if you have a very high noise floor. Better engineers than me use it on their drums, use it a lot more than I do. I just don't like it so much because it always sounds a little like it just kind of opens and closes a little too harshly for me. But other guys have had great success with it. But my rule of thumb: use it sparingly. Use it when you have a very high noise floor that you want to eliminate. I don't always want
I've
to.
Sorry, I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
With the gating, what I've done is if you have a horn section and they have big breaks in the middle of the song, I throw a gate on there so it acts as an on-off switch, so I can continue paying attention to the artists on stage and not having to go and mute themselves. And when they hit it,
Yeah.
it's back on the way it should be.
Yeah, that's
Or you mute it, or you gate it so that it cuts out the stage noise and it cleans up the mix.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, and that's what I would call a high noise floor. Though horns are a perfect example of that. Instruments that are coming in and out, and you don't want a lot of stage noise. Absolutely.
Okay.
Compression, once again, too much is worse than not enough. Use it, but you do need to use that on a lot of things. Look up, see which instruments like it better. Vocals, I always use it. Most instruments, I use it. Acoustic guitars, not so much. Bass guitars always benefit with it. I also use it on drums, like the snare makes, like a drummer, he's only human. He'll hit the snare harder one time, a little softer on the other, and like just so this makes all the snare hits the same. And one trick I've used with that is I put the snare and the toms and just by themselves into a subgroup, and I've gated the subgroup so all the snare and all the toms are actually sitting in the same space. You hit a tom, it's just as loud as when you hit the snare, and that's worked very well for me. And it just brings it all to the same level, to the same punch.
That's a good trick.
Yeah.
So, John, what would you do to a cowbell if they tell you to turn it up?
Oh, I knew you were going to bring up cowbells. Daryl and I had our first chance to work a secular event last weekend. It was we were partners on Salsa Fest, or Salsa on St. Clair. And what I've learned is the cowbell is an integral part.
It's
of
the main
sound.
thing. You will get yelled
It's
at
the main thing.
and told
So
off if you don't
hear
turn it up.
salsa music, it's always the cowbell. And people in the crowd were bringing their own cowbells to play as the bands on stage were playing. And so I was thinking of that old comedy sketch, "We need more cowbell." And I was thinking, don't say more cowbell. I've never mixed so much cowbell as I did this weekend.
So in the case of a cowbell, you would be gating that, or would you be compressing that, or both?
I would be muting it, but it wasn't up to me. I you know what? I think I didn't do anything to the cowbell because I didn't find it that dynamic. It was always very steady. And so I really didn't need to use a compressor on it. And if you don't need to use it, don't use it.
Those guys were very, very good. And if one guy got loud, which was the problem, they all got loud consistently together. So it was always the same. I was up on stage and it was loud. And they're telling me more cowbell through these other. It was loud. And that cowbell just carried through.
Yeah, I was in front, and Daryl was in charge of the monitors and everything on the stage. And I would see, and he's wearing his earphones. And I'm thinking, oh, he must be monitoring the monitors. He must be listening to things. He must be working very hard. And then he told me, no, it's to make it I'm using it to muffle the sound. It's so loud up here.
It was too loud.
And,
There's no way you could hear it unless I didn't bring my in-ears for that. And even then, I don't think it would have done much difference for what was going on.
yeah.
But
So our summary here. So compressors. So both compressors and gates affect volume, correct?
Yes.
Compressors will make sure that the volume is within a certain range,
Yes.
as opposed to extremes. Whereas
Yes.
gates will allow certain sounds to come in and others not to come in.
Yeah. It's basically an on-off switch for the sound.
Okay. And ducking, see, I'm learning. You're being very proud of me. So ducking, in summary,
Yeah.
is when music goes down. Yes, duck. Music goes down to allow something else to pop up.
Yes.
And that's usually some things are automatically, like in stores, they automatically do that.
Yeah.
And then limiting is basically, I guess, limiting how far sound
a compressor
comes. Is that
at
right?
an extreme level, only used to protect your system. It's not musical sounding, but it prevents the system, like too much volume going through your system, so it protects your system. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I don't have this question down, but I was thinking some things that you've seen in the field that people have done with compressors and compressors and gates that were kind of not a good thing to do. Any stories?
Well, that whole acoustic guitar thing. I was working with an artist, Daryl. You've worked with her, Miranda Stone.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. I did a show with her. I wasn't the sound guy. I was, believe it or not, the MC for the event. And but the sound guy, her guitar was sounding so bad. It was so like it was just not open. And a friend of mine, Dave Kay, he went in. He saw what was going on. I wouldn't like. Here's my problem. I'm great. Well, I'm an okay sound guy, but I would never. I always feel nervous going up to another sound guy and telling him to do something different. Because I hate it when people do that to me, even though I should listen. But so I didn't do anything. But my friend Dave Kay went up to the sound guy, saw the compressor, pulled it out, and all of a sudden the guitar was sounding full and rich and open, and yeah, so that was a case of too much compression just on that guitar. And Miranda's going from the stage, "Oh, thank you, Dave."
Wow, that's smashing the main audio guy.
Oh yeah, and that's something for all you artists. I love Miranda Stone, but never make fun of your sound guy. I've had artists do that, and I think you're playing with
protocol is always bring a Tim Hortons to your audio guy, because he's the guy who's going to make life easier for you on stage.
Yeah, it's almost like there's sometimes a conflict between the audio guy and the musician, and they really should be working together. I mean, sometimes what the musician wants is something I don't want to give him. Like if he asks for more monitors, I might not want to give it to him because his monitor will bounce off the back wall and muddy up my mix out front. And so this is why, but the singer will need it. And this is why there's sometimes, I don't want to call it a conflict, but a difference on what should happen here, and a difference of priorities. So first of all, you need good relations. You need to trust your sound guy if you're a musician. You need to be a little bit more open to giving the musician what they need if you're a sound guy. And you need to really be in all this together. And
I'll jump on the whole monitor thing. The other thing is a lot of times people say, "I want more of me. I want more of me. I want more of me." But the reality is, and I had to do that on the Salsa Fest, is what can I turn down? what needs to be brought down so things pop up, because I was redlining, I'm watching the amps going, you're going to start clipping and this isn't going to be good. So it's like, what are we pulling down to make it manageable for the people on the stage? Because it's just way too loud.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing about monitors. A singer will, and we're morphing into a different subject. I hope you don't mind, but it's a bit of a concern of
That's
mine.
fine. Go for it.
But monitor is there for pitch and for meter. It is not there to sound like the record. As a matter of fact, I've had people who ask for some reverb in their floor monitors. And the problem is the floor monitor is supposed to cut through all the reverb in the room. You put reverb there, then you can't hear yourself. You have to turn it up. And then it gets louder. Then the drummer will hear how loud it is, and he'll start hitting harder. And next thing you know, everything from the stage is muffling out in front of house, and you're going deaf.
Yep.
So you need to take things. So don't ask for more of you. Ask for less of other things to get your monitor right.
And the other thing, and I know I do this with Cheryl. She's bad for not always asking for anything in monitors. She just usually just says whatever's there is there. But mixing Cheryl a number of times, it's like I know what her voicing of her voice sounds like if she has too much of something versus not enough. And I can also tell with her pitch. So if you're listening to the voice, again, it's somebody I know what they sound like when they're singing with a good mix versus a very quiet mix, whether it's the instrumentation or not enough for vocals or vice versa, or way too much of everything. You start learning because you'll find out how their pitch goes or how their tonality shifts.
So
that's something that an engineer really needs to pay attention to.
I have seen this where I've had a singer who's singing a little pitchy. Then I start adjusting the monitor, and it's almost like I'm tuning them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. And I was a musician at one point, and I remember I was playing with a group, and I was playing bass with a really fast piano song, "Goodbye World Goodbye." All you Southern gospel fans will know that. And it's like do 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 do, all that. But we weren't playing through our own rig. We were playing at a big venue, and the rig was there. And the bass was way too loud in the mix. I couldn't hear anything else, and it was just throwing me off. It was blowing my head off, just the bass. And I don't know how. I was trying to play and go, to like turn me down to the monitor tech, and he never did. I think he was asleep or something. But yeah, that's. Yeah, but one thing that I think is maybe a real help is in-ear monitors. If you can afford it, get your own in-ears, because you can isolate better, you can get a better mix. It doesn't have to be too loud. You will want a little reverb in there. You don't want the reverb in your stage monitors, but a little reverb in your ear is sometimes nice, and maybe a microphone that's pointed at the crowd, so you can hear what the room is sounding like, what the response is. But they quiet down the stage. They let you hear yourself better than ever before. I think they're a terrific idea. I think everyone should have, if you're going from situation to situation, maybe invest in some in-ear monitors, your own set, something half decent. And you'll
that
find
is a great advice, but again, you also have to figure out where you're going and how are things working. Is there time to set them up? Is there time to sound check? Does the system you're using, if you're playing in little coffee shops, that won't allow you to come in with ear monitors, and it's like you have to think of what the gig is. And trust me, I've seen too many times where people come in wanting ear monitors, and it's just like the rig doesn't allow for that. We don't have time for that. You got 5 minutes, and you still haven't on stage, and we haven't sound checked your ears. And how many times are they going, I don't hear it in my right ear? Well, we're only sending you mono, and your system's only taking it in your left. Like, There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff when you start doing in-ears. You need to walk with almost your own engineer or have a long conversation with the guys on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're playing through a lot of different systems, I would say get in ears, bring your in ears, but don't be surprised if it doesn't work out that you can use them. But when you can use them, magic. It really helps.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
This has
Cheryl, do you have any
been
more
a
questions for
great.
John?
No, I was going to say this has been a great conversation, and I've learned a lot. I think as an artist who I know these things happen, but I don't know what's happening, you know. So it's kind of nice to learn a little bit more behind the scenes. What actually happens when and what audio engineers are actually doing in order to help us make sound better. I know previously we were talking about the opposite, which is, you know, kind of uh, letting the sound grow in a room
Yeah.
through reverb and reverbs and delays. And this time we're talking about compressing everything. So it's kind of interesting,
Mhm.
exact opposites. But it's all the techniques that we need to know about so that when we go in a studio, as artists, we go to a studio or we're in a live situation, we can actually talk a little bit more in the same language as the tech, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully not
Absolutely.
sounding hopefully not sounding like we're trying to be a know-it-all. We're not trying to
Yeah.
be a know-it-all. We're just trying to
No.
understand.
Yeah. But one of the problems,
I think
especially
this
if you're
has been
going from church to
great.
church, is not every tech
Yes.
is as experienced.
Yep.
Not every a tech is experienced. So you will sometimes you will sometimes find you know more than the tech, and sometimes you'll find
Mhm.
the tech can really teach you something.
Right. Right. So there's an advantage. An artist can go in and help teach a tech. That sounds
Yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting.
It's known to happen. I mean, I learn things from artists all the time. Um,
Mm,
it's just having an open ear. Like just saying. I mean, I've been doing this for decades, but I try to learn something new every event I work, every show. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do. But I'm always
mhm,
open and listening to what other people tell me. As I'm getting older and older, I really have to watch out for, oh, I know everything, because I
mm.
might have that tendency, but none of us should have it. If you're like the pastor of a church, you should be ready to let a kid who's just come to the Lord teach you something about the Bible. They'll read something and say, "Oh, pastor, I just learned this," and the pastor will learn something, even though he's been to Bible college. He has all this knowledge. I think it's the same way in anything you do. Be ready to learn and learn from anyone. I have learned from my students. I've had students come in and say, "I've tried doing this and it works great." And I said, "Really?" I tried. You know what? In some situations, that's a really good idea.
Mhm.
Um, it happens, and I
Yeah.
say, I say this for any industry that you're in. This is
Yeah.
something I believe in life. This is something that comes from the Promise Keepers. Every it's man, but if you're not a man, it applies to you too. Every person should have. Sorry, that came out funny. Every person should have someone older than them to mentor them, and someone younger than them that they can mentor. You should have a network of mentors, of mentees in your life to keep you straight, and the people above you they'll keep you straight, and people below you that you can help keep straight. I mean, without, and that's with any industry you're in, and you have to be ready to learn from the people you're mentoring as well. Like some of them are fresh out of college, some of them will know things that are new to you because you don't know where they
Unity,
came
community, mentorship, and talent growth.
from. Oh,
Yes, I was
great.
gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
you just did a nice little plug right there about mentoring. I was gonna say, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome, awesome. We're gonna take that clip and repeat it over and over again. That's what you
yeah.
need to have. And yes, we really, really agree with that. Yes, and not just in technical, but in everything when it comes to
Yeah.
singing or and even any industry that you could be
Mhm.
in. Yes,
Yeah.
a proper way of keeping that industry growing is not only to be mentored, but to be a mentor.
Yeah.
And that is something we do like to encourage. As Daryl said, we like to encourage unity, community, mentorship, and talent growth. John, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and your insight about compressors and gates and eventually monitors and some other stuff that you ended up talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It was awesome. I learned quite a bit. Like for someone like me who doesn't know anything about or didn't know anything about the audio scene, I learned quite a bit. And I hope that you as an artist learned quite a bit too about this. Again, if you liked what you heard today, Art, please, please, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring the bell so that you know the next time that we are going to be putting on another live episode. Actually, we're going to be back next week. We're going to have an interesting conversation, I think, because we're going to be talking about gospel music. What exactly is it? What is gospel music? It sounds like an obvious question, but yet you'd be probably surprised. So I hope that you come and tune in with us next week. If you want to know more about GMI Hub, please go to our website, gmihub.ca, where you can learn all about the different projects that we're working on, some of the different ideas and things that we're going for. There's an opportunity to sign up to be in our community. And all that simply means is it gives us a chance to connect with you. It gives you a chance to connect with us. And you get benefits that include opportunities to get mentored in songwriting and in production. It includes opportunities where you can share what you're doing with your music, whether it is you're recording, whether it is you're going to be performing, whether you're going to release a song or an album. And if you share that with us, we would love to put that in our newsletter so that everybody in the community knows about it, because you know what? It's, we want to celebrate with you. I mean, that's biblical, right? We like to rejoice with those who are rejoicing, and we want to be able to celebrate with you the things that you want to celebrate. So please feel free to go and sign up and be part of our community. Again, feel free to check us out also on our social medias. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at GMI Hub for 3 of them, except for on Twitter. You'll see at the bottom there, it's at Industry Gospel. Thank you again so much for tuning in with us. We hope you have a great week. And yes, I just remembered October 31st is a special week. We do artist showcases. We are doing one August the 29th, but we're also doing one October 31st. And we are so thrilled that we are going to have Fresh IE and 1AT live right here. We are broadcasting in Mississauga. They're going to be right here in Mississauga, and they're going to be doing a live concert. We are so excited that they're coming, and we hope that you'll be able to join us. Please stay tuned to learn more about getting tickets for that particular event. And I think that's pretty much it. So I hope you all have a great week. Oh, there is one more thing. One more thing I just remembered. You're waving.
Okay, what is it?
There's one more thing. The one thing I remembered.
One more thing.
Talk Thursday is coming back. Talk Thursday is coming back. So July 25th, we're talking about gospel music. That Thursday, July the 28th, is going to be Talk Thursday. That's actually just a Zoom meeting. It's an open forum where we can get together and talk about the things that matter to us the most. We want to talk about this topic. What does it mean to be successful for a gospel music artist? So feel free to go check it out. Go to gmihub.ca, talk-Thursday, and you will learn more about that particular event. That's where you get to register. It is a free event, but you can come in, you can register, and we'd love to meet you. We'd love to meet our viewers. We'd love to meet people just to find out where they're at and how we can help them, because we are here for you. So again, thank you so much for being with us. We're so glad you spent the time with us, and we will see you next time right here on GMIHub Online. Bye for now.
Are you writing a Christmas song? Do you want it on our Christmas CD? This year, send us your song for your chance on the CD. Submission deadline July 31st, 2022. Family Christmas Volume 3. Christmas 2022.